this is Kobe Bryant. This is Jam Session coming at you.
81 points for Kobe. Final seconds. Bryant for the win.
I work very, very hard at what I do. I don't look at this as a job, I look at this as a lifestyle.
The Black Mamba strikes again.
Rankings come and go, opinions change, doesn't matter. And you can look yourself in the mirror and say, did I do everything possible to try to get better? If the answer is yes,
Back to back to back. Gotta love.
let the dust settle where it may.
Are you made for this?
These are the type of moments that I live for.
You gotta show it.
5 rings. 5 of them. I told you was gonna get it, man.
You gotta show them.
Still hard to watch. Unfortunately, as we sit here now, it has been 2 years since we have lost the great Kobe Bryant. As he told you, holding up that 5, he was a 5-time champion. He was a 2-time finals MVP, an 18-time All-Star. It's hard to even put into words. And so I feel like we're going to do this for years to come, as we should, and reflect back on what Kobe Bryant was. We'll do both the person, but we'll start with the basketball player, because that is really where he ingrained himself into our sports memory as one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, and on days like this, having lost somebody near and dear to me like my brother, I always want his memory to live on. Kobe is absolutely one of those people. We should pause and recall just how special of a talent he was on the court, but the human being he was as well. So let's go ahead and rewind the clock to some of those iconic moments that we will always remember Kobe as being Kobe. And one of them is probably one of the biggest challenges in his life. You go to 2013, 17 years into his NBA career, he tears his Achilles heel. And for anybody who knows, it's probably the most brutal injury. Most guys go to the locker room. He wanted to make 2 more free throws before he would spend a year plus recovering, and he wouldn't return.
And not only that, he wants to walk off the court on his own accord. He didn't want the chair to come out. And in fact, reports said that he wanted to just tape it up and try to keep playing, because the Lakers at that point were fighting for a playoff spot. Unbelievable, the grit.
Speaks to who he was, just the grit and determination. How about this one? This was pretty much the moment. 2000 Game 7 Western Conference Semis. That's the great Scottie Pippen being crossed by Kobe. Shaq with the oop, an iconic moment that would get them to the finals. They'd win in the NBA Finals, their first title since 1988. Would start that three-peat. One of the special moments with Shaq and Kobe. That Lakers group will go on to win 5 titles.
In the fourth quarter of that game, the two of them combined for 43 points. Pretty remarkable.
Jalen Rose, don't look now. Kobe Bryant torching the Raptors for 81 points. This was vintage Kobe. Nobody could stop him. How about the next closest scorer to Kobe's 81 on the Lakers? Smush Parker had 13 points in that game.
Yeah, there are some games that finish with 81 points, let alone one player scoring that himself.
Talk about finishing. How about Kobe's final game of his career? I remember watching this, and what is so ironic and just vintage Kobe is, meanwhile, that same night, the Warriors were on pace that night to break the record for most single-season wins, but it was all eyes on a bad Lakers team because Kobe demanded the attention, going for 60 in his swan song. Are you kidding me?
And I remember watching this game and just thinking, this, of course, is the way Black Mamba is going to go out, right? Dropping 60 in a game that really didn't matter much, but to him, obviously, it did. I remember his whole family being there, all his girls, obviously, him holding them up and celebrating with them and Lakers Nation, and what a moment.
And before we get to some other ones that I know you want to touch on, Shae, because it defines Kobe in totality, but Black Mamba, just the nickname itself, this was the mind game, the mental side where Kobe beat everybody. He was going through some trouble in his personal life, and when he came back to the court, he would hear everybody talk about him and talk smack. And Tiger Woods went through something like that, where it kind of crippled his career because of the turmoil in his personal side. Kobe said, I need to find a way to get back to being me, and I took on this persona of the Black Mamba. It propelled him to get back to greatness. Kobe did a lot of it with athletic skill, work ethic, but the mentality, it was just on another level.
And I remember at the end of that game, too, the Mamba out with the mic drop was one of the best things ever. So Jordan,
can we do this longer? I mean, I just want to talk about Kobe.
I know.
Kobe,
I feel like we're rushing through it. But so those were some iconic moments on the court. But what about off the court? Because he did some remarkable things that really no other athletes have done. And we'll get to him being a father in a minute. But what about this moment? Him winning an Academy Award for the best animated short.
Man looked good in a tux, didn't he, sir?
And it was quite a moment, because here he is winning an Oscar, but not standing amongst other athletes, right? Standing amongst actresses and actors and the academy. And
spoke to how dynamic a guy he was. I mean, there's so much life after basketball for him.
No doubt. Life after basketball takes us here. I love this so much. Him sitting courtside at the Lakers game. That, of course, is his daughter, Gigi, that was in the very tragic helicopter accident with him. And there he is. And I remember this so vividly, him explaining things to her on the court because, of course, she was a hooper as well, and trying to talk through what they were seeing and enjoying, and him chopping it up, obviously, with LeBron on the sidelines and things. And, man, that memory picture video is ingrained in my mind forever, and it's just so sad.
Yeah, I mean, the family man that he was, that he was going to be, he was leaning into, all that he put into basketball to become great. You could see him shift that focus into, now this is family time. I gave all those years of my career to the NBA and being one of the greatest. Now I want to give it to my daughters. I want to give it to my family. I want to give it to my wife. And we are so excited to see that part of it, what he was going to do for his family, what he's going to do for the WNBA, and how much attention he brought to that league. It's just when you think about what Kobe was doing and where he was headed, and I know you're getting emotional thinking about it. It's
okay.
just, it's really sad. And if there's one takeaway from it, and we heard Tom Brady mention this, is these guys are athletes, but there's a whole nother life to them. And for anybody, I mean, maximize life you have, because it can be gone, unfortunately, in a moment.
Yeah,
But he's never forgotten.
No, he's not.
Never.
So 2 years feels like, I don't know if it feels like it was just yesterday or if it feels like longer than 2 years ago, but nonetheless, hopefully we reflect more than just days like today on what his life was, legacy on basketball as a dad, things off the basketball court, all the things. Vanessa Bryant, we are thinking of you today because we know how difficult days like today are.
Mamba is never out.
No.
Not on this show, not out there in the world. We love you, Kobe.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.